Hey everyone, my name is Alyssa Junius and I'm an artist, educator, and creative entrepreneur. I am the founder of Continuum Arts and Pilates, where we use movement to inspire change within ourselves and our community. I'm also the co-founder of Arts and Wellness Collective Sultry Sisters. We are community partners with Hill Street Country Club and enjoy creating programs, events, and workshops in our hometown of Oceanside. Today, I'm hosting an artist discussion about Disco Riot's Move American campaign. Disco Riot is a local dance company, and we have artistic director Zakia Salinas in the house. We also have the incredible Shayla James, who we both had the pleasure to collaborate with on this project. I'm so excited to introduce these San Diego artists to the Hill Street Country Club community. This hour will be dedicated to learning more about Disco Riot, the Move American campaign, and how we've been navigating being an artist during COVID and a social justice movement. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for being here. Woohoo! We are live here on the Hill Street Country Club Facebook page. So I wanted to first start off by allowing y'all to introduce yourself individually to the Hill Street Country Club community. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, the type of artist you are, and what you're all about.
Who's first? Yeah.
I guess I'll have Zakia go first.
Hi. I'm Zakia. My name is Zakia Mailer Salinas. That's my full name. Pronouns she, her, hers. I am also a native of San Diego, and I am the artistic director of Disco Riot. We started Disco Riot in late 2018 with the intention of providing more opportunities for independent artists, specifically dance makers and performers in San Diego. And we have been doing that good work for the last couple of years. Part of our programming is creating performance opportunities for artists, but also bringing community together to do projects like Move American. So we're really excited about this project and what it's offering our local arts community and some artists also from other parts of the U.S. to create some work that has some social justice themes and some engagement with the current political situation and the upcoming upcoming election. So we're really excited about that. I also teach dance at San Diego City College, and I also teach yoga and probably several other things that I don't remember right now, but that's the gist of it.
Yes, I love that you do all the things. And I love how Disco Riot is a reflection of you and the community that you care about. So thank you so much for being here. What about you, Shayla?
My turn. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Shayla James, and I am a music teaching artist, activist, arts advocate, lots of things, researcher, depending on the day. I just hit actually 7 years in San Diego, just like last month. I know. And so I know. So I actually I feel like, okay, I think I know the lay of the land. I understand San Diego finally. Don't need map directions to get everywhere. So, and originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I'm the owner of Sempre Music Studio, where I teach creativity focused and creative youth development focused lessons to my students, and I'm the chair of Rising Arts Leaders.
Awesome. Thank you, Shayla. So on this Move American project, I was able to collaborate with Shayla. So thank you so much for being here. And yes, I also want to let the guests know, if you're tuning in, we are live and we want to hear from you. We want to engage with you. So feel free to use the comments and let us know if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want to shout somebody out, let us know. Hello,
Poochie. Always.
Yes. Hi, Morgan. Morgan Danae is in the house. Hi. She's clapping. She's excited to be here. Thanks. So now I want to move on to some interview questions. And the first question I want to ask y'all is, how have you been affected by COVID as an artist? And secondary question, how have you pivoted?
Okay, I'll go first, Zakia. Okay. Oh, wow. So Yeah, March seems so long ago, and also like just yesterday. I know for myself as a musician and an educator, it was definitely a moment of panic because everything was closing. I immediately was thinking like, oh wow, like what am I going to do with my teaching gigs? And then I'm in a band called the Swiss Rolls, and so we had like a gig lined up at our local establishment, Bar Pink, and and so like that wasn't happening. Everything was closing, and so there was definitely this moment of panic for me of like, okay, what's going on? And then kind of then like, what's next? What's the pivot? And so luckily I've had students in San Diego for a while now. And so they were able to just kind of jump online with me so that I could teach them online one-on-one classes. So I was able to teach piano, violin, viola. I still miss them greatly, like the in-person lessons, and like I've seen them grow these past 7 months. I'm just like, what? They've just grown through the screen. But yeah, I was able to teach online, and then had some calls, and then this was one of them, the Move America campaign. Zakiya called me and was like, hey, like we're doing this video series, like we need a musician, like I thought of you. And after I heard what it was about, I was just like, absolutely, how can I get involved? I'd love to. So it's been that kind of thing the past months. It's been me focusing on my teaching, and then just when gigs pop up or opportunities arise, I try to get involved and just like remember that like my discipline, my art practice still matters. Like I can still do this work, but also giving myself grace for the days that I just don't want to do it. Just like I'm thinking of a lot of things and I just can't do my art today, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I'll do it the next day, and I'm still me. I'm still Shayla, still a musician.
Yeah, the one thing I took away from this is that rest is essential. Mm-hmm. I was on that grind, projects and performances back to back. So for me, I definitely had that panic, but then also this sense of like relief at first. And then that relief was then accompanied by more panic. But I would love to hear from Zakiya. It's been a roller coaster, girls.
Right?
Yeah. Roller coaster, y'all. So I want to hear from you, Zakiya. How have you been affected personally, and how have you pivoted?
I mean, I feel like those sentiments of panic and also settling into a new, very different rhythm, like that really resonates with me, because I think as artists, we're gigging, we're doing stuff, we're like teaching 20,000 classes and like trying to get in a rehearsal and trying to do an event. And I think also as, activists, like engaging with community in a lot of other ways, volunteering, spending time, showing up for different things. So the hard stop on some things was an interesting experience. It's different than anything I've ever experienced in my life. Like I like to take breaks. And they're planned and they're organized, and like this was not that. So that was an interesting feeling to settle into. But my teaching has definitely been affected. Everything that I do is movement based and in person. So that has been interesting and challenging to try to figure out how to do that online. But we're making it work. Like people still need to do their yoga and people still need dance class. And so we're like figuring it all out. I feel like for Disco Riot, we had some major shifts that had to happen. We were just a few weeks away from premiering a show when the lockdown started. So there was a quick pivot to figuring out how to make that an online dance concert. At first, we just kind of like took a break and gave everybody a second to recalibrate. And then we came together and decided like, okay, we want to try to make this an online concert. So that happened within a matter of a few weeks. And that's also on our website if anybody's interested in seeing how we turned a live performance into an online concert that's filmed. We had some summer intensive stuff planned. We had some other programming that just had to shift, and it was okay. We found ways to make the things that felt really important happen, and then practice like letting go of some things that needed to be let go of. So all of that feels like good practice to be in. And I think that we're constantly pivoting. I'm constantly pivoting from one day to the next, like stuff is changing. So we're doing classes in the park now, and we decided to do this Move American project as a video project. And I feel like there's no better way for it to have happened really than to make these short dance films that have been able to, maybe go farther than they would have if they had been a live thing. And we've had artists from different places that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to invite to do the project because of the online nature of it. So, trying to find those silver linings in what is obviously like a very challenging and super painful and difficult time for everybody.
Yeah, the two words that came to me while listening to both of y'all give your testimony of how it's been for you to pivot is intention and accessibility. It's like for me, like the intention behind the Move American project is why I said yes. Because, one, I had the panic of like, I'm not doing anything. And then I had I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything that doesn't matter, that doesn't say something. Yes, I've been gigging and I realized like I can't gig like this no more. Really, one, to have artist rights, I can't gig like this no more. And two, I just don't want to make stuff that's about nothing that I'm not really tied to. So for me, honestly, the Move American project couldn't have come at a perfect time in my personal journey of saying yes to things that mean something to me, but also moving and shifting into a place of accessibility, not only being accessible to everyone, also being about something that matters currently, but also supporting the fact that like my body can't kick 10 times in a row anymore. I'm getting a little older. So it's what and replay it. So this couldn't have come at a better time in my career. I don't know about y'all.
Like, wait, did that 30 seconds, was that a good 30 seconds? Do I need to do that again? It's not live, so we can like just re-record it. We'll turn it sideways, we'll make it happen.
So I want to go a little bit more. We've been talking about this Move American project that brought us all together. I want to highlight, how do you and Shayla know each other?
Through Rising Arts Leaders, which is an awesome opportunity to plug Rising Arts Leaders. Rising Arts Leaders is amazing.
So tell us a little bit about Rising Arts Leaders San Diego.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, this is great too, because like we've as an organization had to pivot a lot this year. A lot of our original programming is just like has shifted and changed. And I also think that like giving that time to breathe was very helpful, because we're also a volunteer-led organization. And so, a lot of us are artists, arts administrators, wear different hats, very much a part of the arts and culture scene. And so like, people had layoffs and like had to quit their jobs, or just figuring out what direction to go in. And so, there was a moment where we just had to say, is everybody okay? Like, take a minute, like, let's figure this out together. Don't let this be a priority right now. And then let's kind of like then come back together in a few weeks. So with that though, we turned our annual quick grants that we give out that are usually focused on like professional development or artist projects. We turned those into response funds, relief funds this year. We just felt like it didn't quite make sense to do our normal quick grants. At that point, it was unsure if people had, gigs and professional development to go to, conferences were being closed, artists didn't have funds. And so we just felt like, this is a time where we can fund those in our community who really need it. So we ended up doing the quick grant and funding some artists who really needed it. And then we're currently this month, because I'm like, I could talk about Rising Arts Leaders all night. It's not about them. I love them. But this month we're preparing for Creative Conversations, and it's all about the arts in San Diego and resiliency and how to move forward together. And I'm really excited to dig deep into some thought-provoking questions about like where we are as a community, where we have been, where we can go, like some radical visioning can happen. So that's October 29th at 11 to 12:30.
Yes, y'all join in Rising Arts Leaders San Diego. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really think that conversation is like the Kickstarter of change. So I think having conversations of what's important to us as artists kind of initiate how we create. And so moving forward, I want to segue into the Move American campaign. And Zakia, like, what inspired this spark? Because I know you had pivoted with, you know, pivoting to the virtual show and, you know, kind of change your programming for your intensives, but what sparked Move American for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I probably last year around this time, we were kind of digging into what our programming for 2020 was going to look like. And I had been thinking about, you know, what was coming in the next year. And at that time, you know, if you think back to October of last year, the real big thing that was coming up in 2021 or in 2020 was the election. And so, you know, I felt like there was an opportunity in that to create something that really mobilized the community to get out and vote. And coming from a family of, you know, activism and political engagement and social justice work, it's something that has always been a part of my dance making to kind of engage with that practice. But I wanted to do something that was sort of voter engagement related. And then as we were figuring out programming, that kind of fell to the wayside as some other things surfaced in terms of opportunities to create different programs for artists and kind of seeing where we fit into kind of the bigger scene in San Diego. And then COVID happened and everything that we thought we were doing just like came to a screeching halt. And the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and people are out here just like really struggling. And we're seeing some major injustice in our community towards our immigrant citizen or immigrant people in our communities. And we're seeing justice, I mean, at all different levels in so many different kinds of ways. And I know that it was affecting very directly a lot of people in my personal community, in our artist community. And there was just a lot of heaviness and a lot of weight. We were all feeling, I think, pretty overwhelmed by the state of the world. Artists tend to be empathetic and compassionate. And so there was a lot, I think, that we were all processing. And as I was checking in with people, you know, just like, hey, are you okay? You know, are we okay? Is everyone all right? Nobody was okay. Like, nobody is okay. And so it reminded me of that initial thought I had a year ago to do something around the election and trying to mobilize the community to show up to vote, but also then creating an opportunity for the artists in our community to do the work that they do as activists and as change agents, to tell their personal stories, to show up and process their feelings and their experiences and the things that mattered to them. And it just seems like the perfect opportunity to bring all of that together into one idea that really moves us forward, because there is no, I don't know what the right way to say this is, but there's really no separation between what we're doing as artists, what we're experiencing as people, and what's happening in the community as a whole right now, what's happening in our country. So, you know, it felt appropriate to bring that project to the surface. And as I reached out to artists about it, I got a lot of really positive feedback and people interested in participating and responding to that call. So that's kind of how it came together.
I love that. And, you know, for Hill Street, Hill Street believes art is personal, communal, and universal. So that totally aligns with what Hill Street is all about. And the one thing that came to mind when you were talking about your inspiration for the Move American campaign is the social justice ecosystem that was created by Deepa Iyer. I don't know if you heard of her before, but one of the when I was trying to figure out, like, I know I don't want to do anything anymore, but I want to do something, and I want to do something that's aligned with my purpose and what I care about. And so I looked at this ecosystem, and it talks about how they're weavers, experimenters, frontline responders, visionaries, builders, caregivers, disruptors, healers, storytellers, and guides. I was like, yo, there's a place for everybody in this ecosystem. And so Zakia, when you hit me up and was like, hey, you want to be a part of it? I was like, yes, because then I can take a part in this social justice ecosystem and be a storyteller, but also a healer. And I just was like, it just hit so many parts, for me. So definitely like on that same wave with you. I want to now segue into talking about, the films as being PSAs, and how how our projects with Shayla came about. So I want to offer, Shayla and Zakia, y'all to talk about your film. It hasn't premiered yet online. So I want you to talk a little bit about your piece and that collaboration.
I'm going to let you lead, Zakia.
Okay. Okay. So I came, just again, like all the sort of things that are happening in the world right now, I came to this kind of reoccurring question that I've been having about, and this has been an ongoing question for quite a long time now, about the sort of conditions of detention and imprisonment and these tactics for control and confinement of people, of human beings, of bodies, and particularly people of color. I spent last summer in the West Bank in Palestine, in Bethlehem, doing an artist residency there and reconnecting to my Palestinian heritage. And, the Palestinian people live in what feels very much like an open air prison. They have border walls around them. They have checkpoints they have to pass through. Their ability to move freely is very limited. It's not different than the experience of living along the US-Mexican border in a lot of ways. There are prototypes for border walls being built around Palestinian land that are, being suggested as new border walls here in the US. So there's all of these parallels between that experience and the experience of people in ICE detention facilities, between all of our Black and brown people in the US that are in prison, and this education system, the school to prison pipeline, and all of these parallels between these like systems that exist in this military industrial prison industrial complex. So it's a major question for me about sort of the ways that these things are interconnected, how they're interconnected, and sort of where we sit inside of that, and what the impact of that is for all of us in our everyday life. And so approaching that as the theme for the piece, I asked Shayla if she would work on a violin version of a song called Cielito Lindo that is a very sort of traditional classic Mexican song that is essentially the theme of the song is to try and like stay happy in a certain way, even when things are difficult, or when things are challenging, to not cry and instead to smile. And so it kind of felt like an interesting overlap, something to lay on top of this very heavy content that felt relevant to my Mexican heritage. So that's kind of the big picture of the work that I was imagining. And then next layer of that was, I was like, well, maybe we could dress Shayla up as the Statue of Liberty, and she could play the violin dressed as the Statue of Liberty. And the entire, you'll see when the film premieres in a couple weeks, I was using the emergency blankets that are given to people in the ICE detention facilities as the scene, as the set for the film. And so we made Shayla a Statue of Liberty dress out of these emergency blankets. and she's this like gray and silver shiny Statue of Liberty that I think also, you know, just brings us back to the question, like, what is freedom? What is justice? And like, none of this is freedom or justice, like what is happening right now. Yeah,
so
kind of the visuals. Yeah, that's, I don't know. Shayla, you say whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah. Thank you for that, Zakia. I remember having the phone call with you, and you brought that up. You're like, you know, I'm thinking that you would dress up as, and I was like, tell me more. You know, what are your thoughts on this? Because I had my own thoughts, but I was just curious. You know, what led you to, you know, ask that? And I guess like, yeah, I guess that's when I just that's when I realized I was like, Zakia is where it's at, and also just. And also just, you know, I guess like it kind of blew my mind too, because like I haven't seen that image of a Black woman seen in like Lady Liberty and then also be playing the violin. You know, it's just like that imagery to me was just like so representative of like who I am and who I've wanted to see in the world, you know, that this is a possibility. This is, you know, this is how you can be as a Black woman in this world. You know, don't be limited by, you know, these boxes that people put you in. And so, and then after hearing, you know, everything that you just said, and on that phone call, I was just like, yes, like I'm gonna do my damnness to like play this violin and this song correctly.
You did it well, girl. You did it well.
But yeah, just a powerful experience, and seeing that video afterward, just like I was just like crying, you know, just it's just very powerful statements.
Yes, and if y'all can't wait a couple weeks to see Zakia and Shayla's dance film collaboration, you can see it at Hill Street right now. Hill Street is hosting in-person viewings of all 9 dance films, and you can set up an appointment and go in there, and it's about 30 minutes for screening. So if you want more information, go to Hill Street Country Club.org and you can get set up. So if you can't wait, you can watch all 9. Now, I will say Disco Riot had an event at Art Produce, I think 2 weekends ago, right? Yeah, 2 weekends ago. And I was able to see all 9 films together. And wow, that was powerful. You know, each individual film is about like 2 to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're each individual powerfully. But when you see all of them and then you realize, wow, all these artists on different parts of the United States, we look different. We're talking about different things, but we're all talking about things that matter. It was so powerful. So all of y'all, I really recommend that y'all watch all 9. It is a different experience than just, you know, on just individually. So I highly suggest that. And I wanted to also talk about my experience collaborating with Shayla, because I didn't know Shayla before this. I did not know Shayla. And I remember Zakia, you know, gave me the call like, hey, you want to do this project? And I was like, yes. And then she was like, we're thinking about, you know, we want to use local musicians and local artists, like through and through, like for artist by artist kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, I was first thinking about just tap dancing, because I'm like, oh, if it has to be original music, well, I'll be original with my feet. But then she's like, well, I know this like amazing musician named Shayla. You should check her out. And, you know, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that, because right now I've been feeling alone. I've been feeling alone by myself, you know, and I could really use some co-creating, like cuddling. Since we're not together, I could use that co-creative cuddling. So I'm so happy, Zakia, you had recommended working with Shayla. It would, in our first couple of conversations, was just us getting to know each other.
Right? Yeah.
It was like this live, like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? What you're about? And we eventually, through conversation, came up with the concept of Handle with Care. You know, when we were thinking about what do we want our PSA to be about, we want it to be about us. You know, we want people to see who we are, because I'm going to speak for myself, and Shayla, you can share your testimony about this project. But for a long time, for me, I've always worked in white spaces. I've always been tokenized, and I've always had things put on me of like, oh, you do this right, or you like this right. And so for me, Handle with Care was almost like a way for me to show people like the softer side of me, who I am and what I need. And what I need is rest. What I need is to be able to be my full authentic self. You know, as a contemporary fusion dancer, when I meet people and I tell them I'm a dancer, like, oh, you do hip hop, huh? And I'm like, I can, but I'm so much more. So for me, it was a personal, like, yes, I'm talking about, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm talking about Black women matter, but I matter. And I want people to see me as an artist versus what they want to see. But that's been my experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I echo everything you just said, because I remember our conversations, and it was a lot of also me just being like, yeah, yep, keep going, like, like I that's a great explanation of it. Of just like, was it cuddling?
Yes, co-creative cuddling.
Yes, I'm gonna keep that. That's exactly how it felt. Because I mean, at that point too, yeah, I also wanted my voice to be my voice and used the way I wanted it to be used, versus like someone saying, hey, can you do this for me? And like not really any discussion, feedback, collaboration. So I was really feeling like, okay, the next thing I do, like I want it to be like on my terms, think it through, be intentional, like how, because I was feeling some type of way about everything. So yeah, I remember our conversations and feeling just like, oh yeah, like this feels good. Like this is effortless. Like I don't have to work on like having someone understand me from where I'm coming from.
It was so nice to work with someone who you don't have to do a lot of over explaining. And it also felt nice, like that Zakia just gave us space. Like, hey, do your thing. I want to amplify you. I want to support you. Whatever you're about, I'm about. That's why I chose you. It's all about intention. And when you're very intentional, you can trust. And because I knew that that's how Zakia rolled, I was like, I'm gonna trust this, and I'm gonna lean into this collaboration with Shayla. And then when we built that trust, is how we're able to create, you know, Handle with Care. And for me, you know, on my personal end, wanting to be able to create and based off my experience, I also, Shayla was like, what do you want to compose, you know? And so Shayla, you know, composed an original piece.
It's beautiful.
For this work that really, I don't know if I could have asked for that piece. I don't know if because I mean, I used to play the violin. I did, y'all. I played the violin, but you would never know. But so I was just like, you know what? Like this, I think we talked a lot about how we felt. We talked a lot about how we were feeling, and we were talking about how at this moment, like when we were creating this, how we were being asked a lot as Black women. We were being asked like from our friends, like, am I an ally? We're being asked like, how should I handle this? We were being asked so many things. We're being asked to do so much work. And at the end of the day, we're like, are you handling us with care? Are you realizing that we need to be held? We need this. And so, Shayla, I really want to allow you to talk a little bit about, you know, how you created that original composition that was so beautiful to dance to.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so my background is classical music, which I've always felt a little like internal struggle about, where, you know, where you get the hip hop, I get like, are you a jazz player? And it's like, I mean, yeah, I can dabble, but my, like, you know, how I was taught was very much classical. And so I've definitely gone through phases of just like, yeah, like Chopin, Beethoven. And then I'm like, you know, why am I playing these dead white men's music? And, you know, like, is that really? But I'm like, oh, but it's so pretty. So it's just like a constant thing. And so I guess I did have like a slight like little moment of like friction within myself of just like, you know what? I think what's going to come out is going to be pretty classical. But I wanted to be like Shayla's version of classical, Shayla's version of dissonance and consonance. So I did something really, like something I haven't really done, which was like I planned out the piano part. Like I like spent it's like, all right, like let's just dig in, let's like do some chords. I even played with some like different rhythms. Like, I don't know if you ask me like what key, like any music person, like what key is that in? What time? I'm like, I don't know. It just came out. And then I layered violin and viola on top, and that's all improvised. Like I didn't write it down. It was just like, listen back to this piano part and just play. And I hadn't done an exercise like that in a long time, and then like record like, and then have a finished product at the end. Usually it's just me just dabbling. And so then when I like listened to it again, I was just like, who is this person? You know, like this is how she's feeling right now. And so I remember like sending it to Alyssa, and I was just like, I hope she likes it. I hope she likes it. Like, this is not what I had planned, but this is what came out. And I'm really pleased about what came out, and that like it really reflects that moment in time for me.
Exactly. I want to say, I love that you ended on that note. Like it really reflects that moment, that it captures that the essence of that energy. And because you described to me how you created it, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm a improv too, because I had sent Shayla some of my movement, how I move, how I like to move, like my essence, my aesthetic. But I wanted to honor that being in the moment, because me and Shayla didn't meet until we created that video. It was all Zoom in the room. And so I was like, you know what? I want to really be able to authentically respond to hearing, like after hearing what she made, and just being able to respond to how I'm feeling in that moment. And so that video, the dance film, is like how I was feeling, how Shayla was feeling, and how we be feeling. And hopefully being a mirror to how other people right now are feeling. So that's kind of how Handle with Care was created. And
both for creating that piece for Move American. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece. If you have not seen it yet, you need to go watch it. It's a special piece. The music is gorgeous, Shayla. The dancing is beautiful, and the videography was amazing. The editing's beautiful. Like the way that all of it comes together is really, it's a window into an experience. It's a window into your voices. It's a window into like giving us permission to really see you, and asking us to really see you. And I think that that's like what we all need to be doing right now, is seeing our Black women and seeing our other members of our community that are feeling marginalized or, abused. And there's just so much going on, and there's so much power in our community, and so many beautiful things that come out of our community, even through sadness and even through pain. So I really appreciate what you contributed to the campaign. It's really it was a beautiful way to start the whole project.
Yes, thank you so much, Zakia. I just feel like also what I really appreciate about what you've created with Disco Riot is really a platform for artists to be seen. You know, this is my first time collaborating with you too. And so I didn't know what to expect. And so to not ever work with you, like me and Zakia, we've danced for various companies here in San Diego. We've kind of circled around each other. We share really good friends. And so for me, I didn't know what to expect. And I was very grateful and to be able to be a part of a project that started with trust. You know,
Yes.
Starts with trust and starts with honoring the individual to contribute to the collective voice. And to me, I feel like that is very unique. And I feel like it's inspiring. It's inspiring for me to see that kind of intention play out. You know, it's so beautiful. I mean, for me, I've danced for different companies. I've been commissioned to do certain projects, but I've always felt the need to deliver, even though I wasn't asked to deliver a certain type. I always felt like what Shayla was saying, that pressure. I don't know if you felt that too, Zakia, like the pressure of the product, and you're like, it's in the back of your head, so you kind of create with that in mind. But I did not feel this at all.
It was good. I'm glad to hear that. I know that feeling of like, well, you know, we're inviting you to participate in this project for X, Y, or Z, you know, reason that is some sort of container of ethnicity or gender or, you know, some personal life experience or whatever it is. And then you're like, okay, well, can I make that? And like, can I make that thing the way that you want me to make that thing? Or like, is that even a thing that I want to make? And then like, isn't it all of that all the time if I'm making it? Because I can't not be any of that anyway. So did you really need to like explicitly ask me to make that thing?
That part. That
Right.
part. You know, like the switch between being picked and chosen versus being supported and also saying like, hey, I care about this. And for us to say, we care about that too. Okay, cool. Join. So that's the one thing that I feel like is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And I want to segue now into, you know, activism. You know, when we talk about activism, and you can see that my background, I got a little poster that I made at Hill Street that says, art is activism. So I heard Shayla, you talk about you being an activist, and Zakia, you also, I want you to talk, and I want you to take a moment to define for our audience and share, what does activism mean to you, and how do you embody that in your work? It's a personal definition, so
I know.
No, first.
No, I didn't do that. It's all good. It's all good. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think for a long time I felt like activism was like a radical, like you got to go out there and protest. You have to like put yourself in the front lines. You got to like just be vulnerable. Like it was like I remember learning about like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and reading Angela Davis and seeing how she's discussed, you know, like and talking to my mom about civil rights movement, and like that's like the vision of like activism that I've always had in my head, and but have always been like a bit scared of that activism, of that risk, of that of like knowing that what if I don't come home to my family, like that bit of like, you know, if I can't do that, like I'm not an activist. And so that really came home to me during this pandemic, where I'll just be completely honest with y'all, like I don't have healthcare, haven't had it in like years. I live with my mom. She's 70, turning 71 this month. And, you know, I was like, you know, my heart is like with everyone who's out there right now. Like I want to be there, but I just didn't feel like I could, just because there's the pandemic going on too. And then I'm seeing these videos of like, even when there's, you know, protests, I'm not even gonna say peaceful, because to me, I'm like, they're all peaceful protests. And then, you know, cops and authorities are showing up doing terrible things to people. And so there's this moment that I was just like, oh, I can't engage in activism. You know, I'm not an activist. But I think I was in a discussion about this, and someone said something that just spoke to me so clearly. And it was just like, you know, kind of what you were saying earlier, Alyssa, about the social justice like ecosystem, that like everyone can play a role, and your role matters, whatever that is. And so for me, it's been like educator. You know, how can I intervene into like my practices of teaching? Like, how can I decolonize the things I've learned and like not regurgitate that onto my students and like expect certain things of them? Like, how about I just listen to them, and like, what kind of music do they want to play? How are they feeling? You know, really leaning into like disrupting the status quo in like your everyday life. So that's one way I've really felt like connected, where I can be an activist like to the younger generation. Like, yo, like we're figuring it out. Like,
Yes.
Do it better. I want you to know all my skills and tools so that you can like keep
Yes.
it going and do it better. Like, so that's been one thing I've been really leaning into. And then the other is just like continuing to speak up in spaces. I think there were times where I was very much like, felt like if I speak up too much, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose pay. I'm going to lose a friendship. So it's like I kind of kept it inside, and it just like didn't feel good. Like feeling like, you know, if I saw a community member gunned down on a video, like I can't say that to anyone. Like no one's gonna really resonate with that if I'm in this like predominantly white space. You know, they'll be like, well, Shayla, like, what's wrong with you today? It's like, I'm feeling some things. So I think also activism in just the sense of speaking up in spaces, trying to be co-conspirators and accomplices with people. You know, one thing I've noticed is that if I speak up, chances are other people are going to speak up, or if someone else speaking up, I'm like, hey, like I got you, like let's do this together. So anyway, that's a long explanation, but I guess that's to say that everyone has their role, I think, and however you identify as an activist is okay, and it's going to change.
Yes, that part. That was not too long, Sheila. That was like beautifully said. And I want to say there are things that you said that I want to highlight. And I want to say, like, engaging in our youth is activism. You know, you being a Black music teacher that matters. You know, because for me, teaching in like a predominantly white studio, I'm sometimes these students only Black presence in their life. You know, I'm the first person. I'm the last person. Who knows? I am the person. So I think representation is activism, because we exist in these spaces, and also engaging in our youth by, you know, teaching and being that example. I think that's so important. So yeah, it's totally that. And another thing that I took from what you're saying about activism, it does change. It does change in your scenario, like being with your, you know, your family and not having healthcare. Those are real issues that we need to address, but it doesn't need to stop you. You know, like being aware of like our what's current in our life, but also learning what's our capacity. And I think being an educator is a pretty powerful position to be in.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I wanted to also just quickly add that made me think of like I have this this beautiful student that she just when she first came to me, her mom was like, you know, I'm so glad I found you, because my student is a young black girl, and she is playing piano, and she's just like, her mom was saying, you know, like, I'm so glad I found you because my daughter asked me, like, you know, do they teach? Do they, you know? And she was like, that's when I knew, like, I need to find her a teacher that looks like her. She's like, you know, of course, baby, like, of course, you know, our people, we do a lot of things. But just, you know, just that question, just, you know, spurred her mother to, like, you know, try to find someone who represented her daughter. And so, like, to me, like, that story is always powerful, because I'm just like, oh, you know? Like, that's what we need.
Yes, we do. And so for Zakia, for you, I wanna learn from you, like, what does activism? What is activism? Girl, my lips can only talk so long on this live. What does activism mean to you, and how are you active in the community?
I mean, I feel like I want to echo a lot of what Shayla said, and also, you know, what you've said throughout this conversation, Alyssa, that like intention is so important about what it is that we're doing. And I think that a lot of my activism right now takes place very specifically in our dance community, because we have some issues in our dance community that are very serious and challenging in terms of racial inequity, in terms of ageism, in terms of resource hoarding. we have issues in all of the arts around that, and definitely specifically in dance in our community. And so I feel like a lot of the activism that I'm engaged in right now is trying to lift up different voices in our community, creating more opportunities for independent artists to make their work the way that they want to make their work, in ways that are sustainable, not just like every once in a while I'm going to offer you a carrot, but like, how do we grow the next generation of dance artists in our community in a way that is also reflective of who our community is, which is a lot more diverse than you would think. And so that's been a major piece of my personal activism. But I'm also an educator, and I agree with Shayla 100% that one of the most important places that my activist voice can sort of serve the community is in educating my students. My students at City College are doing all their dance classes online right now, and it's not easy for our students to dance in the space between their bed and their dresser, you know, but to find that they have some agency in their body in a time when they don't feel agency necessarily in the rest of their life, that they can express something, that they can share something through their physical dancing, and to remind them of the social justice, political, and sort of rebellious roots of our modern dance training, that it's not just for certain kinds of people, that it's really an invitation to certain principles and philosophies about making change and about fighting for freedom of expression, that like that is also a profound part of what dance has to offer in terms of activism, and not just for professional dancers, but for anybody who ever wants to get into their body and move, that like being embodied is an act of revolution. Being embodied is an act of, you know, freeing yourself and freeing your community. So all of my sort of activism is kind of grounded in that experience in that place. But it comes back to that question of like, what is activism? And I think it looks like so many different things. And on a daily basis, like, you know, making choices for myself about how I treat myself. Like there's activism in that, being kind to myself, like taking care of myself, feeding myself, sleeping, like all of those things, you know, like those are important components of fighting against a system that doesn't necessarily want us to thrive. So, you know, I try to find my little acts of resistance in my everyday going about my business.
Yes. Because that promotes sustainability. Like that word right there, like how can we sustain ourselves? How can we sustain each other? How can we sustain art, the arts, especially here in San Diego when you talk about, you know, resource hoarding. So for me personally, like activism is staying engaged, staying connected to myself, connected to my family and friends, and staying connected to my community. And that ripple effect has definitely reached out to Hill Street Country Club, which we're on this live right now. And for me, this surge in being not only active within like just existing as an artist, of a Black artist here, but also providing an outlet for others of creative expression, but also being representation. I think that is in the form of community spaces, you know, community spaces like Hill Street Country Club, community classes like Disco Right is having these outdoor classes. They have a whole series coming up. I definitely want you to plug that too. Tell us a little bit about that. And also for me, like movement being a communal practice. I just started teaching Pilates in the park, and I did not realize how much not only I would get from it, but how much people needed it. And that is a part of the social justice ecosystem. Like Zakia, you're a yoga instructor, being a healer, and being able to be that corner that people get to go in and be like, you know. And also music has that healing component, being able to listen to something that speaks to you, you know. So I definitely believe that part of activism is not only sustaining ourselves, but as artists, creating things that sustains our communities, how we can hold each other, how we can co-creatively cuddle each other with distance. I feel like we can creatively cuddle each other by watching these dance films, by going to these outdoor classes, by listening to Shayla's music and her band's music. I really feel like we are in this together. And I want to spend these last 5 minutes. If y'all are still in here, we got 8 in here live. If y'all have any questions specifically for us in this live, we'd love to hear from you. If you just want to give us a little shout out, we'd love to hear that too. I want to say that my mama is on this chat right now, and I want to just show her comment. She says, art is activism, giving yourself a chance to be seen and heard, conviction to a purpose.
Ooh.
Snaps, mama. Snaps, mama. Now you know where I get my eloquent words from. Now the attitude comes from my daddy. So it's a mix of both. But yeah, so if y'all want to drop a comment, drop a line, please drop that with us. Otherwise, I want to segue into Zakia. Tell us a little bit about your outdoor and also / Zoom series that's going on right now.
Thanks. Yeah, we have class outdoor in the park, in the North Park area, kind of over in Morley Field, on Monday mornings and Friday mornings at 11 a.m. So if you are down in central kind of San Diego City area, we have class Monday and Friday mornings, and those are what we call drop-in spiral out classes. And that's basically a contemporary modern practice, yet we like twirl away in the park. And Monday is a rotating series of teachers from the community. And then on Friday mornings, I typically teach. And then on Thursdays, we have a ballet stuff class. In the morning, we call it ballet stuff because it's like ballet stuff, but for everybody. In the other dance forms, like, you know, modern and contemporary dance can apply that ballet information on Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. on Zoom. So you can do that from the comfort of your home. And then on Thursday evenings, we have a class called Movement Enthusiast, which is an improvisation based class that's got some like yoga and dance ideas in there. And like, you can turn your camera off, turn your lights off, turn your candles on, and like, do your thing in your house. We did that practice last Thursday night, and I was like sweating because I was just jamming so hard, but I also felt totally like rejuvenated and relaxed at the end. So it was like a good kind of cathartic release experience. So if you're interested in any of that, those classes are on our website, discoriot.org/classes workshops. If you want to check that out.
Boom. I have just the discoriot.org on here, but you don't have to do the /Move America. You can just go to the website and navigate that. But I also want to give Shayla you a chance. If somebody is like, wow, Shayla, I want to work with you. I got myself, or they have children or family. How can they work with you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, sure. I'm still teaching lessons, taking all ages. Like I have little ones. I've got older ones. So, you know, if you're interested in like general music classes, maybe you need a break during the day. You want your child to get engaged in some music, I can do that. If you're interested in piano, violin, or viola, maybe you're a beginner and you're like, this is the time to start this, or this is the time to restart this. Maybe it's been a while. I got you. So yeah. So you can I've got working on a website, but I've got a Yelp and Instagram for Sempre Music Studio, SEMPRE Music Studio. And then if you just think I'm super cool and you just want to like jam or something or collaborate, I've got an Instagram that's it's scrolling down there, ShayJ1127. And then the last thing I'll say is for Rising Arts Leaders, we just opened a I forgot what we called it, but it's like a wish list, supply list. So if you're an artist, any discipline, and you want supplies for your art practice right now, we just opened an application that you can submit. I think it's up to $100. So, you know, if you need some paintbrushes, you need some ballet things, if you need some music equipment, so just, you know, apply. I encourage you to apply. I think it closes in the next couple weeks, but you should be able to find it on Rising Arts Leaders .com, or we have a Facebook.
Yes. And don't worry, y'all. We're giving a lot of information out. What I will do is I'll speak with these women offline, and they can provide all those things, and we can do a post or a link to connect with them. So don't worry. Just follow. You can also, if you want to, on Instagram, you can also DM them. I'm sure they would be happy to share that information as well. We have a question in the chat, so I'm going to just post this on the screen. What gives you all hope in these challenging times? So let's end on this question. What gives us hope?
You all, honestly, like having these conversations, like not shying away from tough conversations right now. And for those who are shying away, like bringing them back in or calling them out, or just having these conversations just gives me so much joy. Like, I'm like, oh, I feel great. Like it's 8, I can do anything tonight. But yeah, just having these conversations really gives me hope, and like just talking about what we're doing makes me feel less isolated. Teaching my students gives me lots of hope. Some of them don't quite know what's going on, so I'm just like, oh, you beautiful babe. And then some are, going through some really tough times right now. And so, but seeing them always be like, but I'm getting through this week. I'm getting through my classes, like just going and going. So yeah, so I think just being rooted in community makes me very hopeful.
Yes, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being rooted in community, absolutely, and artists.
Mm-hmm.
Artists give me so much hope, and art gives me so much hope. It's such a great tool for communicating, for inspiring, for creating empathy, for sharing stories, for activating people. Art always, not just in like these challenging times, but in all of the challenging times, all the time, like art forever gives me hope, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I want to echo all of y'all. Like for me, what gives me hope is art. It helps me connect to myself. It helps me connect to others. It helps me create and creatively express. It helps me celebrate, and it helps me heal. So that's what gives me hope. The fact that I have, as artists, we have access to this way of embodying our emotions, this way of letting go of emotions, like just having this vehicle, whether we're playing an instrument or using our voice or creating a dance, it's just there's hope in that. There's hope in the creation of something that can just exist outside of us, whether the community exists outside of us, our work, and then like the pain, the joy. For me, the reason why I love live art, it's like a fleeting thing, and it's like that cycle of like, okay, there's a season, and that process, like we were talking about earlier, of pivoting, of letting go, of embracing, of just like lighting a fire and be like, like all the things, like all the emotions are important. I think right now, like what's going on, I was talking about that roller coaster of like feeling this. I feel like, for me, I was numb to some of these emotions because I was like, do gig in life, do. And now I feel very awake, aware, and engaged, and so blessed to have been able to collaborate and create with you, amazing, talented San Diego artists. For me, like being a part of Hill Street, it's so important to like amplify that. Like we got some bomb talent up in here in San Diego. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you know, but now you know. So like, for me, that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's what gives me hope. It gives me hope that there are community spaces and artists that are about community. So thank y'all so much for being here tonight. Thank you, Hill Street Country Club, for providing a safe space, or like a creative space for us to just be ourselves and talk about what we care about and engage with the community. I want to say and plug again that if you want to see all 9 of these amazing dance films, you can. In the comfort of Hill Street Country Club, you can come alone, you can bring a friend, You can bring your family. It will all be with social distance. We do say that we do ask that you wear your mask while you're in there just to be safe and everything like that. But you will be able to view the films. And there's more things going on. There's a photographer named Johnny who has an exhibit called Normalized Radical. And my goodness, his work is so amazing. And right now, if you buy any of his work, it's being donated to an organization that is like, working to do all this work. I think it's for a bail fund, I think. I don't really exactly, don't quote me on it, but it is going towards the movement. So those are things you can check out in person here in San Diego. Again, if you're not in person, you're tuning in from another country, another state, another city, you can access these amazing videos on Disco Riot's website /Move American. And what's great about all of these videos, because this is supposed to push and support like voter awareness and voter engagement, each of the films are attached to a different initiative. So please watch each video, learn about the artists, learn about the initiatives they care about, and make sure you are all ready, set to go and vote. If you've already done it early, great, and let your friends know. We have a comment here before we finish. Morgan, she came and she said, I saw it Saturday and the films are amazing. The exhibit was excellent and the gallery is wonderful. Thank you, Morgan. I actually met Morgan at Dancing Soul Boutique. We met at a dance shop in Carlsbad, and she is a beautiful person. She also dances and she does dance therapy. So we are like surrounded by so many people who are active in this community. Thank you, Morgan, for tuning in. Thank you. I think we had about like 13 people at one point tuning into this show. So thank y'all all for being here. If you're watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. Comment below any questions you have for these amazing artists. Stay engaged with us. Follow us on Instagram. Go to our websites. We are here in community and we're here to continue to exist in spaces, take up space, and create art. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you soon. Bye.